Soulful Menagerie by chocolatecastleinthesky on AO3, read by Lily6645. Chapter 3. What does it take for one soul to recognize another?
Part 2. Inko looked at the letter in her hand in defeat. After nearly 6 months of lessons, the gym that Izuku had been attending lessons at was under new management and had placed new safety requirements on those who attend the facility. This meant that they would be separating quirked students into separate classes from those without quirks. They also wouldn't hold classes unless there were 10 or more students. Inko couldn't afford to pay the previous study rates, and there would never be 10 quirkless kids enrolled in Izuku's age range. The phone buzzed, pulling her from her mental slide. Hello?
Hi, darling.
Sashi! Relief filled her voice.
What's wrong?
Hasashi has always been attuned to her emotions. Izuku's going to have to drop gymnastics.
I thought you said the lessons were going well.
They were. He's one of the top of his class, but the gym has new owners and they're segregating students based on their quirks. And he won't have a class unless 9 other quirkless kids join, which would mean any lessons would be on a previous lesson pay rate. The man cursed.
That's ridiculous. Are there other gyms in the area that aren't so discriminatory?
Moving to America had forced the man's views on quirklessness to change, as it had the largest population of them. He still remained aloof and distant from his son, but no longer held the bigoted views that had forced him away initially. I'm going to look. This one was just so convenient. I know other local ones permit quirkless students, but have an increased safety fee for them.
I can help you call around.
Thank you, Hisashi.
Anything to make your life easier.
Inko's heart clenched. I wish you would come home. The man sighed.
You know why I can't. I do miss you, but I can't.
Mama, I'm home! Izuku's voice echoed through the small apartment.
Goodbye, Inko. Have a good rest of your day.
The dial tone echoed in her ear as her son shuffled into the living room. Hey, sweetie, how was school? She eyed the nervous shuffle her son gave as he spouted various comments about his classes. She really wished he would be more honest with her about what happened. They made more chit-chat before the boy ducked away to his room, probably to play his online games with his friend. Inko had theorized that as soon as the two met, their soul marks would appear on each other's bodies. Platonic marks required in-person interaction, but the two were already extremely close. Mom! Purple Catnap 71 is so cool! And guess what? He likes Eraserhead, Mama! No one knows about Eraserhead! Her son bounced in his seat at the dinner table. She let out a laugh. What else does he like? The boy's entire face wrinkled in thought. He likes cats and naps. He's adopted. He says that his dads are really cool and strong. He had a big brother soulmate, but he disappeared. But his soulmate took care of him after his mom died. The boy's face fell. Mama, don't die, okay? The woman slipped over to wrap her arms around her child. I would never willingly leave you, Izuku. No matter what, I will always do my best to be here for you. His tiny arms encircled her waist, and they allowed the moment to wash over them. It sounds like your friend has some wonderful people in his life. Do you think we'll be soulmates, Mama? The boy spoke around the fish he'd shoved in his mouth. Wait until you've swallowed, baby. But yes, if he's as wonderful as you say, I can't imagine that you wouldn't be. That evening, once she'd checked to make sure Izuku was tucked into bed, Inko pulled out her computer and started researching gymnastics classes again. She pinched her nose in frustration, resisting the urge to throw something. So many times she wished she had the power to change the laws that allowed discrimination to take place. After an hour of searching, she finally found a gym that looked promising. It was a small gym and was several train stops away, but they permitted anyone, regardless of quirk status, to participate in the class. It was more expensive than Izuku's current classes were, but still much cheaper than paying for individual lessons. She immediately sent them an email for more information. These classes were the highlight of Izuku's week, and she'd be damned before she let society take that away from him too. Izuku was a little sad to leave the gymnastics lessons he had gotten used to, but was excited for the new location at the same time. He hadn't made any friends during his lessons. He hoped he would at the new ones. He sat next to his mom on the train, antsy even as he carefully noted which stops he would need to take. Finally, they arrived at their destination, and it was near UA. Izuku bounced in place as he waited for his mother. They entered the small gym owned by a young woman named Ashido Yua. While Inko spoke with her about what Izuku had already learned and what he would be learning, the boy eyed the class offerings. In addition to the gymnastics series, she taught 3 different styles of dance. Izuku dear, let's go watch the class you'll be joining next week. His mother called to him, and the young woman giggled when he scrambled over to them. We have 2 classes for your age group each week. One on Wednesdays and one on Tuesdays. You are welcome to join either class or switch between the 2. I've found a lot of parents appreciate the flexibility. Students are at all different ability levels, and we do our best to focus our attention on individual strengths and weaknesses, rather than assume everyone can do the same thing at the same time. Izuku's eyes were blown open when he entered the main training area. It was the largest room in the building, with a vaulting horse, uneven bars, balance beam, rings, and a huge floor space. The horse and balance beam both had pits filled with colorful foam cubes at the end of them. Each space was color coordinated too. There was an instructor and 2 teenage volunteers helping the kids with different activities. It was loud, chaotic, and joyful. We always have volunteers from our older age groups help out with the younger kids. Anywhere from 2 to 4 on an average night. The trio spent a few minutes at each station.
watching how students would practice different moves and how the instructors and volunteers aided the different kids. Izuku was amazed at the diversity in quirks at the gym. His other gym didn't seem to have a lot of mutant quirks, but most of the kids in the class seemed to. A boy Izuku's age with fluffy purple hair made his way across the balance beam, face scrunched in determination. When he reached the end by the foam pit, the boy took a deep breath before jumping off and doing a front flip into the cushioned landing. Yuasan called out her encouragement to the boy, who blushed at the attention. The class was doing a group cool down when Izuku and his mother followed the owner back to her office. It seems like a lovely facility. Inko was very impressed by what she had witnessed in the other room. Thank you. I was particularly inspired by my niece to get this place up and running. She'd be around your age, I think. She smiled at the boy. She adores dancing, and I used to teach her different styles. She faced some discrimination when trying to take dance classes, and I decided that no child should have to deal with that. I finished up my degree and opened up this place. 2 years strong now. As she talked, an otter paddled around her arm. How soon would Izuku be able to start his lessons? Next week, if you'd like. We'd have him run around a series of tests to see where his skill levels are before he would join in our regular class activities, but that can be done during class time. The women discussed a few more matters while Izuku looked out the window at the families leaving. Inko cherished the evenings that she had off. She specifically loved the evenings that she had off and had the time to cuddle up with her baby and watch one of his movies. A small smile crossed her face, even as the boy in question snuggled up against her side, because he would cringe if he knew she was calling him her baby, even just mentally. Indeed, at his age, it was a surprise that he still had so much baby fat clinging to his face. Inko let out a content hum and ran her fingers through his hair. Mama? Who's that for? Her baby's voice broke through the haze she'd fallen into, dwelling on the past. Izuku was pointing at her newest soul mark, Ray's beluga. One of my patients, sweetheart. Miss Ray is a lovely woman, and even though she's a patient, I think we've become quite good friends. She looked down at his wonder-filled eyes, and her heart felt full to bursting. She was one lucky woman. Can I meet her? His eyes were drawn back to the creature that swam along her arm, small fingers tracing its movements. I would need to ask the doctor. She has a very complicated history. There are many things that can upset her that we need to avoid, and we're still figuring out what those are. Can I draw her a picture? I'm sure she'd like that, Izu. Do your patients get lonely? They don't get to live with their families. I think they do sometimes. This is part of my job, to make them feel less lonely. 2 of Miss Ray's children visit when they are available, and they do write her letters. She says that helps her feel less lonely. Her baby had such a big heart. Before the movie had even ended, he had paper out for each of her patients, drawing them pictures and writing to get well soon. Inko delivered the pictures the following morning. She fixed them to their mini fridges with smiley face magnets, giving them something nice to look at each day. Ray's eldest daughter was visiting and cooed over the crayon drawing.
This is so sweet. Did your son do this?
She smiled at the teen. He did, Izuku said. He worried that my patients would be lonely, and since he didn't know if he would be allowed to visit, he wanted to make everyone a drawing. Ray traced the green lines of the bunny, surrounded by a rainbow of flowers. He did a good job. Inko laughed. I'll tell him you said so. That boy loves to draw, though he does more people than animals. Fuyumi hummed.
I wonder if I could get Shota to draw something.
Don't push him if he doesn't want to. Ray spoke to her daughter firmly. I know. It was just a thought. He should get more opportunities to just be a kid anyways. The girl's face grimaced before smoothing over.
Oh, I got my acceptance letter to the educational program at the local university.
Congratulations! Ray wrapped her daughter in a hug, and Inko stood off to the side with a smile. She knew she would never have a daughter, but she imagined that they would be close, like Fuyumi and Ray were, despite all the circumstances that attempted to tear them apart. You want to teach elementary school, right?
Mm-hmm. They're such important years, and after seeing Natsuo as a teenager, I doubt I could deal with an entire classroom full of them.
The woman all but laughed, easing into chatter about Fuyumi's plans for college and beyond. Shota leaned against the wall of the gym, texting his husband. It was about 15 minutes until Hitoshi's class started, and he had begged his dark-haired father to come see his progress. There was little that would prevent him from watching his son flip and jump around, finally feeling proud of himself. He ignored the dirty looks thrown his way. A scruffy man leaning against a wall in the opening of an alley would have most people in the neighborhood on guard. Despite how absorbed he was in his conversation with his husband, Shota was always on alert. A pro hero never dropped their guard. They couldn't afford to, which is why the sound of small explosions had him swiftly moving towards the noise. A blond boy around his son's age had bursts popping from his hands as he tormented a smaller boy, who begged the boy to stop. His quirk flared, stopping the boys in its tracks and creating fear and confusion.
I'm sure by your age, you know unauthorized quirk usage is illegal.
He drawled out his irritation. The blonde, to his credit, didn't let his fear stop him. And what's that to you, hobo man? You just used your quirk, didn't you? Kachan, you can't say that to him. The smaller child's arms waved frantically. Why not? You stupid Deku! The glare the boy turned onto his companion rivaled Shota's own. Because he's a hero! No hero I ever heard of. The boy scoffed, though Shota eyed the green-haired child more closely.
Your friend here.
Shota heard the boy mutter about them not being friends and ignored it.
Is correct. I am an underground pro hero. I have my license to prove it.
See, Kachan? It's Eraserhead! I told you about him! Whatever, dumb nerd. The boy rolled his eyes and stalked off with hands shoved deep in his pockets. Shota knelt next to the awestruck kid, who seemed oblivious to the tattered state of his uniform.
Are you alright?
I'm fine, Mr. Eraserhead, sir! The boy scrambled up, making sure he had his belongings. Thank you for stepping in. No one's ever done that for me before. The kid seemed to ramble before a fleeting expression of doubt crossed his face. Anyways, I have class that I need to get to. Thank you! The boy gave a bow and rushed off to the same gym that Shota had planned on entering in just a few minutes. He sighed as he stood, knees protesting. Maybe Hitoshi would know more about this strange, knowledgeable child. And that's where I'm going to leave off this part 2 of Soulful Menagerie by Chocolate Castle in the Sky on AO3. As I said in the last podfic that I did, I am so sorry that it took so long for me to get back to these. I love recording and reading for you guys. I hoped you enjoyed this. If you did, go support the original author. I'm going to put the link in the description below. Hope you have a good day, night, or whatever time zone you're in. Bye, kittens!